many of them and you didn't really like finish it off properly, that that's kind of one of the big why you have some big slippage when you get towards the end a lot of times. So kind of the idea is to sort of try and get some of the homework out of the way early, which so just boring things like the LOD stuff I was talking about for the Hangar, or even just simply like deploying the client and patching it. That's actually kind of a bit of a project. You've got to put it up, you've got to have it hosted on a content delivery network, and so those are all sort of things. That's one of the good reasons for doing the Hangar. Because originally when I started this, I wasn't planning on sharing anything until the alpha with everyone, and then I was like, well, we'll have these things working, and it may not be a bad idea for everyone to, get to run around the engine and see the ships and engage and interact, and also it'll be good for us to make sure that we're sort of getting things working, and then we're sort of iterating on it versus you have it all kind of working, but you're not really testing it in the wild.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm pretty excited about the Hangar. I can't wait to see all my ships.
No, it's gonna be good. So you'll have at least 5 of them hanging out there. So and we'll also have the variants. So if you have the variants, you'll see those too. So the variants for the 300i and the Aurora. So we have those ones. It's just we're not going to have, like I said, some of the more limited ships just yet. They're all in various states of design or 3D engine construction.
Okay. Well, I do have a 325A and a 350R, so I got at least 2 of those.
Yeah, so you'll see both of those in your Hangar. So yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
No, I know. I didn't really actually anticipate it, but I definitely think there is a whole collectible thing that's going on in the Star Citizen universe, where people kind of like the idea of sort of collecting these virtual, not quite the same as having a model on your desk, but it's kind of, like that because it's super detailed and kind of cool. So yeah, it's kind of all sort of fun actually. It's new frontiers, and it's kind of fun building them to that level of detail too. So I'm excited beyond just a Hangar to like get them out in space, and for me, I've always wanted to fly that bigger Millennium Falcon stuff. So I'm looking forward to taking the Constellation into battle with a few friends for the very first time. I think that should be a pretty special moment.
So the question I have relating to how many ships I have is it possible to loan ships to other players? I mean, I've got all these ships, but I don't want them just sitting in my hangar gathering dust. I'd like the other members of my guild to be able to fly them when I'm not using them. Is that something that the game mechanics will allow?
What we're thinking of is if you've got multiple ships, you can hire either NPCs or real players to pilot them for you.
Okay.
So that's kind of the same. I guess if you could consider it loading if basically that they don't charge you for it. Or you decide to split the profits or something like that. So, but that kind of the mechanic is that you should be able to hire some, and the way the game works is that it sort of considers players and NPCs kind of the same, and essentially players sort of have first dib at a job, like on the job board. You can say, okay, yeah, I'll take that, and if you don't, it usually gets filled in by an AI instead.
Okay.
And you'll be able to specify. I mean, you'll be able to specify. I only want my friends to fly this, or I just want AI. I want to have some AI to fly it.
And then if a friend is flying it and it gets destroyed, the lifetime insurance will put it back in my hangar and not theirs?
Yeah. Well, the lifetime insurance is basically based on the hull, so it's your insurance, it's your ship. It would go back in your hangar. So yeah, I guess you could have. I mean, it could be it'd be another way that you can get friends to like, hey, come play with me, and they can come play with you.
Okay.
And
that's pretty cool. So another question I have then is about the electro skin hull enhancement. How does that work? What exactly is that little thing you were selling?
Well, basically that's just sort of a paint job on the outside of your ship, and kind of the way it's the electro skin is sort of like it's like, have you ever seen like those the glass that can turn solid and not turn solid?
Yeah. So
the idea is it's sort of like that, where you have a skin on it and you can program it with different looks. So, it could be a pirate look or some other kind of look. So it's essentially just a custom skin or paint job that you can switch out at a flick of a switch instead of having to go in and get it repainted.
And is it basically a module that takes up an upgrade slot on the ship, or is it something that's fixed to a specific ship and you can't take it off, or how does that work?
No, it's like a little device that doesn't take. Yeah, it's like a module. It's like a ship system. It's a vehicle item that you plug in,
so
and then
you
can
want that, you can get it, but you lose your ability to maybe fit in some extra cooling or stealth technology in that same slot.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not one that takes a lot of slots, but yeah, it has some level of penalty. But you can also buy, like with real, I mean, with game money, you could buy different like skins or whatever. So
Okay. Okay, that sounds good. So my next question has to do with the fact that I'm in South Korea right now. What are your plans, or how are you planning to deal with lag issues across the whole international player base? Especially with dogfighting.
Well, there's a couple of them. So, one, we're actually talking to partners in various areas. So we're talking to some people in South Korea and other places. But the way we're trying to design the system is that the dogfighting aspect of it is handled by distributed servers on the cloud, and they're sort of spun up in the various geographical areas where people are playing. And they all communicate back to what we call the universe cluster. The universe cluster is a dedicated set of servers that is built just to run the persistent universe, and that really cares about managing all the resources, like knowing what all the players have and what location they're in, and it sort of does the matchmaking. This, you're coming into this other area with this other player who's a pirate, and our matchmaking says you guys should have a fight. At that point, it hands it off to a server that's sitting out in the cloud somewhere, and those are spun up in various locations. Like, the reason why we want to have that on the cloud servers is then it makes it easy to spin up stuff in Europe or America or Asia or wherever. Okay. So hopefully that will reduce some of the sort of lag issues. You won't have to, like the combat stuff, you won't have to be like communicating with a server based in the US.
Okay, and then if we're like say on a planet purchasing something, that'll be the bigger Galaxy Universe server or whatever, which is more centrally located but not time dependent.
Yeah, all that is. So basically everyone lives on the same universe. So there isn't different multiple universes, everyone's in the same universe, and basically the universe cluster, which will probably run somewhere in the US, takes care, it basically tracks everyone's inventory and what their location are. But that's not a particularly time-sensitive communication setup, because basically it's just like it's when you buy or sell something, or when you move from one system to another system, versus that where you have to update multiple, like 20 frames a second.
So have you started planning for when the Hangar module comes out and everybody jumps on your servers all at the same second and crashes them horribly?
I'm sure they will crash them horribly. I mean, we already had some problems when we built this brand new website that has the ability to like auto level load and everything, and we had to spin up like I think 18 servers to get it good. So I'm sure at the very beginning it will be kind of tough, but that's the whole point of doing it. The actual real reason for doing outside the Hangar module, doing the dogfighting module, was to really try and balance the ships and the dogfighting and play around with that, and also see how much the back-end infrastructure can support in terms of how many ships in one area, what fidelity of the action you're going back and forth.
Okay.
So that's the idea. Cool. The idea is to try and stress test it with the community, and not do the SimCity thing where you think you've tested it and then you release it and there's 2 million pissed off people.
Yeah. So for the Hangar module, have you thought about possibly doing some sort of system where you let certain people in first and then you let the next batch in to help alleviate that problem, or are you just going to open it up for everyone at the same time?
Hangar module, probably, I don't know. We'll definitely do some pre-testing on it, but that probably can handle everyone at the same time. Dogfighting, we may have to roll out in stages a bit more, just because the Hangar implementation for us isn't doing the full client server on the first rev, but the dogfighting would also have to do some of that.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just sure there'll be we'll get loads of issues where someone's like, I've got this configuration machine and it doesn't work. It's just it's the usual PC thing. I mean, the good side with the PCs is, they never really get stale. You can always get cool new stuff. It's always moving. Yeah. Obviously, you have the most powerful system. The downside is there's literally, thousands, tens of thousands of configurations.
Yeah. So, from a design standpoint, if someone asks you a question that you've never considered, what do you do, or how do you go about answering that question?
I say, good question. No,
No, I mean, I mean, there has definitely been some times where like people have said, "Well, what about this?" And I'm like, we didn't even consider that. That's a good point. But I would just say, I mean, generally the way I do in those situations is I sort of take it on board, and then normally I have sort of like a gut answer, which is sort of like kind of runs from my sort of gamer logic of like how I would prefer it if I was actually the person on the other end.
Yeah.
And then just sort of think it out. But I mean, that's kind of the nice thing about the crowdfunding is that and the whole community is that there's a whole bunch of like ideas and concepts that get fleshed out to the nth degree that you would never get fleshed out if you weren't doing what we're doing with the community. Because even if you had a 100-person team, when you kick around ideas, it's still only 100 people versus 100,000 people.
Actually, isn't it closer to 200,000 now?
Yeah, I'm basically And also, you got to remember that not all those people engage in the communication. So, in terms of our active users on the forums and everything else, it's less than 200,000.
Yeah.
We still got people that like we haven't been able to link their account from Kickstarter because they never replied to us, even though we've sent loads of emails and stuff. But yeah, no, I mean I wasn't saying specifically 100,000 like exactly. I was just saying that you have a lot of people that give you feedback, and just the nature of the crowd is you're going to have enough, so many people, so many brains thinking about it. They're going to run every angle down.
Yeah. So I had another question too about the post on the website about the grace period update.
Yep.
You said under upgrade clarification that you were removing the upgrade packs, but. So I've got the base ship that I purchased and the upgrade pack. Do I keep that, or should I reclaim all those and get the new ship?
I mean, I guess what happens. I mean, the reason why we had the upgrade pack in the old setup was that it was just kind of a hackneyed. It wasn't ever really meant to be sort of buying or selling all the kind of stuff that we did or upgrading. So we just had an upgrade item that would take you from one to the other because we couldn't like literally get rid of an item and replace it with another item very easily. But in the current system, you can basically take your base ship, turn it in for some credits, and then buy the LX, for instance, which would essentially be the same as buying an upgrade too. So the idea is that the upgrade basically just takes your base one turns it into the LX. So that the reason why we were saying we're getting rid of it is because we just you'd have less items to change. Like if we say, okay, well now coming out with the 350R and you had 300. You basically all you would really have to do is you just basically melt your 300 down and then buy the 350R, which is essentially the same as an upgrade. It's just making it a simpler conceptual transaction.
So if I've already got the upgrade pack purchased, I'm still good to go. I don't need to melt both of them down to repurchase the 325A, for instance.
No, so you have a 300i and a 325A upgrade.
Yep, and a 350R, but that's separate.
The 350R. Yeah, well, I think 350R is just a straight ship. I don't think there's an upgrade for it.
Yeah.
So basically, what would happen is that the 325 upgrade just turns a 300 into a 325.
Okay.
I'm not sure about us collapsing them together, but that would be logically how I would think about it. We were discussing it the other day, just like kind of what's the easiest way to clean all this up. Because what we didn't want to have happen is people have these. Like there's some cases where some people have multiple upgrades, and they were sort of thinking, well, I can just switch. I've got a 300, and then I can add this upgrade to it, and then it becomes a 325, and then the next mission I will just take off the 315 upgrade and switch in the 325 upgrade. And that's kind of not how they were meant to be designed. They were sort of designed to basically transmute the 300 into the 325.
Yeah. Interesting. So for the Blackbeard stealth skin, for the
you really have everything, don't you?
I have a list of things for my guild as well as a couple questions of my own that I'm making up as I go along.
Okay, no problem. I'm totally happy to. I think it's awesome. I'm always like a highly, it's a highly interested in kind of like why people get which shit, why they do it. It's just cool. So. And as you get loads of different answers from different people, like kind of what they're, I always thought there would be like what, like I think this is the beauty of Star Citizen. originally was thinking, well, kind of like everyone wants to be a mercenary or do dogfighting, but I talked to so many people and they've all got all these different kind of, I want to be an explorer, I want to be a merchant, I want to be a bounty hunter, I want to be a pirate. I mean, there's just all these, and there's people that just want to like deal with running a factory and stuff like that. It's kind of cool actually.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, everybody wants to be something different, and your game hopefully will allow it.
Well, as part of the design, I actually kind of like that because I sort of like all these different people doing different roles because it makes the universe feel much more real and alive, and also is going to enable the players themselves to really generate a lot of the sort of drama and content for the game, and that's important because there's no way with the amount of players that I suspect we're going to have that we'll be able to generate enough content quickly to keep them going.
Yeah.
So it really needs to be a combination of the players basically vying for power or influence or whatever, and fighting amongst themselves or helping with each other, or in addition to scripted stuff or some story stuff that we drop into it.
Yeah. So am I going to be able to be a advocacy agent, or however you want to pronounce it? Is that something that's possible?
Agent? Yeah, I think we were discussing about the opportunity where you could run missions like that. We had a post that was sort of debating about using outsourcing some of their advocacy tasks, and that was why we put it in there, was to allow players to actually, when they get a certain level of reputation, they can take some advocacy. I forget it. I'll stuff like that. Missions and do some law enforcement or track down a fugitive.
Yeah, I read that Kid Crimson story you guys did months ago, and you had that advocacy agent in there, and I was like, ooh, I want to do that.
Yeah. No, we want to support that. I mean, it's a big focus is to support lots of different roles, because I can already see it in the community. You've got everyone that's like, no one gravitates to just one thing. They're all gravitating to all these different kind of roles, and it's kind of cool. Some people want to be robbers, some people want to be cops. It's kind of neat.
Yeah, I definitely want to be a cop who's pretending to be a robber so he can kill the other robbers.
There you go.
That's my evil plan.
All right.
But back
I like your evil plan. It's pretty good.
Back to my other question though, with the Blackbeard stealth skin, what kind of stealth advantages does that skin actually going to give?
I don't think we've necessarily designed it. It looks cool, so it's got the skull and crossbones. And then I don't know about necessarily the specific gameplay stealth advantages. I mean, the way we're looking at doing the stealth, the way we've designed the system is essentially it's about your heat and electromagnetic signature, and you can sort of shield those by, essentially, like if you think of it like a PC, having more cooling units to sort of reduce or take down the heat. Yeah. And you can do the same on the electromagnetic signature. And so you can dedicate like equipment and slots to dissipating heat. But obviously that will be something else you'll have to give up. Maybe not be quite as well armed, or not have as big of a shield generator, or whatever it will be. And that's kind of sort of how the stealth is like. You should always be able to see the ship. There won't be any like Star Trek cloaking where you don't even see the ship. Yeah. But essentially, it just won't show up if you really like sort of shielded yourself. You won't actually show up on the radar, right? So you'll have to actually have visual contact, which in combat in general is sort of air combat, or in our case space combat. That would be hard to always keep. So like you really need to be locking someone on the radar, to lock your missiles, to do all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the advantage of stealthing up your ship. Your just downside is you wouldn't have nearly as much power or room for weapons or shields or stuff like that.
So the Blackbeard stealth skin is basically a pitch black skin that's designed to make it harder for them to visually see you, in addition to maybe slightly reducing cooling or something. Or
exactly.
Heat.
Yep.
Okay. That's cool. That's pretty cool. So, with factions in the game, are you going to start neutral to all the factions, kind of like Freelancer did, or is it more based off of your starting location, or how is that going to work for a new character?
I don't know. So that's another pretty good question. I think it's going to vary. So if you've gone through and you've done the military campaign in Squadron 42, you will have sort of allegiances with various factions that you may not have if you just went straight into the open sandbox game. But yeah, I mean, you know, like you'll always like your default relationship to Vandal will be hostile, right? So, but most of the stuff will be fairly friendly.
Okay. So with the starting locations, I think I read somewhere that the hangar was going to be based on your starting city, right? So are you going to be able to choose that starting location, or is it all going to be Earth for everyone?
You're going to have some input in your starting location, and again, it will depend on whether you've done the military campaign or not, or whether you just jumped into the game. And we're going to give players, you know, an option on quite a few places because we don't want everyone starting in the same system. It will be a nightmare in terms of dealing with all the just sheer volume of traffic in a system, right? You want to spread out all your players between the systems because it would be much more efficient. So we're going to give you a choice that would probably be based, like I said, around kind of like where you've been. So if you did a single player campaign, maybe you've made some friends on some planets, or you know, some kind of backstory that you pick.
So if you want to be a pirate, maybe you could start on, say, Spider or something.
Yeah, totally. No, absolutely. If you wanted to be like on the seedier side of law, you know, we would probably start you in one of the worlds towards the, you know, the edge of the UEE that is more lawless than, say, starting in, you know, the Sol sector or something.
Yeah. Okay. So is there any way we can get some details on like the black market and how that's going to work?
You mean the black market in our game, or the black market in general?
In the game, not
on eBay.
Yeah, not the eBay black market, the game black market.
Well, no, the game black market is going to kind of work. I mean, basically, there are places where you can buy and sell, and those places are sort of location dependent. And so there's a whole bunch of sort of illegal, like whether it's drugs or slaves or, you know, equipment that's being, you know, basically ratcheted up and not necessarily safe, but maybe is more powerful, or things like equipment to sort of spoof or shield your handle and stuff like that. Those would all be available in the, let's say, grayer shops, which won't be like on Earth, it won't be on Terra. They'll be in the worlds that are closer to sort of pirate space or Banu space, or closer to Vandal space.
Okay, like the Banu will buy and sell everything, I'm guessing, from what you said. Okay.
Yeah, you're saying what the Banu would what? Say that again. Sorry.
Buy and sell everything. Isn't that?
Oh yeah. Well, the Banu themselves, yeah, they're big traders. But part of the goal that I want with the game is it's like there isn't any one superstore you go and everything's on sale if you've got the money. It's like there's different areas of the galaxy that you go to depending on what you're looking for. So like, you know, this one planet makes, you know, the factory on it makes the very best laser weapons. You know, they're maybe 15% better than the normal laser weapon, but they're twice as much money. It'd be that kind of sort of thing, like kind of the way the real world works.
Are you doing anything to counter players? You know, picking a city or a planet or two to be the kind of main hubs. I know in EVE Online, for instance, yeah, you might want to go to one region versus another to buy certain kinds of ships, but in general, there's one system where everybody goes to buy everything. You know,
yeah, no. I that's kind of my goal with the game is, I mean, yeah, sure, certain places like Terra or Earth would have a much wider selection of things you can buy. But my goal is to have a lot of goods be distributed throughout the galaxy. So there's a whole business for other people, like buying like, say, this, you know, this place makes these great laser weapons. Well, you could run a business like literally flying there and importing them back to Earth and selling them on again.
Oh, okay, that's cool. So
yeah, I'm looking for ways to get people to always be moving around. So not just stuck in one system. So one of the best ways is to, you know, because we're also a little different. Like, you know, most RPGs, if you look at, you know, they've got this whole loot drop paradigm, right, where they just kill enough monsters and they drop gold or they drop magic weapons, and, you know, you can use the magic weapons or you can maybe trade your gold in to buy a magic weapon. But, you know, our game doesn't really work that way because it's mostly combat. It really isn't loot drop unless you're sort of ripping off some cargo from someone. And, you know, a lot of your money is going to be earned by, you know, flying missions for money or doing trading. It's it's I think something that will hopefully encourage people to sort of have varied gameplay and also move around the universe a fair amount.
Okay. So a question that was asked by a member in my guild was about bounties. If I place a bounty on another player that has, killed multiple members of my guild before and is causing trouble, is the bounty being paid out of my pocket, or is that coming out of some sort of NPC bounty office? If it is by an NPC bounty office, is there anything being done to prevent bounty/insurance fraud?
Well, I mean, I certainly think if you personally put a bounty on someone, it's going to have to come out of your pocket. And I mean, but I mean, it also has to be like in terms of, I mean, there's two levels of bounty, right? So there's an official bounty, which is basically what happens when someone breaks the law. Like I'm a griefer and I'm hanging out on Earth and there's some new people just started and I just blast them.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, pretty quickly there's going to be a bounty on my head and PvP will be authorized on me. So I blasted people that I wasn't authorized to do PvP, but now everybody else knows that they kill me. They get 20,000 credits, and it's cool to blow me up. They don't need to take me in alive or anything. That's kind of I guess part of how we kind of handle the bounty stuff on the official side, and then on the unofficial side, you can sort of put a bounty on someone, but that's more like kind of taking out a hit, so to speak, where you just be basically like, now this guy killed a couple of my clanmates, and I'm pissed off at him. I'm willing to pay 10,000 credits, so he sleeps with the fishes. And then either an AI or an NPC or a player can answer to that.
Is that for the unofficial bounties? Are those going to be like? Is there going to be a bounty office that you go to when you want to set those? Is that going to be just a? I mean, how's that going to work for?
I don't know whether there's necessarily an office or whether you just have to. There's a whole sort of think of it like, I don't know, not eBay, like a Craigslist or something, and you could put up your thing and say, because you're essentially, unless you have a legal reason to do it that's okay, you're kind of putting a hit out on someone. You're like, okay, I'm going to pay you whatever it is, X number of dollars, and you go and kill so and so for me. It's basically a virtual hit.
Okay, that's interesting. So for the bounties that are the official ones, those are definitely going to have a bounty office, or is that more going to be kind of?
Yeah, no, that would have, and the bounties would be more sort of like the law enforcement office. You saying, okay, we'll give you so much to bring this person in.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of how it would go. And then the unofficial ones are like handled separately, I guess.
Okay. So for the planets that have multiple landing spots on them, how are you going to handle traveling between them? Is that going to be where you're going to have to hop in your ship? Take off into space, fly on a planet, land?
We were kind of talking about that. I mean, it seems kind of weird that you would like fly your ship into orbit and land back on another one. It sort of depends. Like Earth's a good example of this with Moscow and Beijing. We're also toying around the idea with having sort of a kind of cut scene that goes between them. Like you board the monorail and then you get out the monorail the other side, and now you're in Beijing from New York or whatever. I mean, I'm being glib about it, but that's sort of like the idea. Like you have a transition, like there's a port where you can have like planetary travel, and you can say, okay, well, I need to go visit New York, and when you're landed in Moscow, and you just go to the station or whatever the Strato Cruiser is or something, and then you land in New York.
That's cool. It's definitely cool. For fuel, I mean, you've said that there's going to be fuel in the game. You said you're going to be able to fuel up around gas giants and things like that. How often are we going to have to fuel up? Are there going to be gas stations in space versus just visiting a gas station?
I think essentially what there will be is when you land on planets, you can get refueled, or space stations, and it won't necessarily have gas stations in space, but I do see that there'll be some players that will have something like a Starfarer, and they'll have tanks in it, and they're really there just to help out if something goes wrong.
Okay. So like I could take the Starfarer that I've got, loan it out to one of my guildmates, and they can kind of follow along with our fleet to keep everybody fueled up if we need to go along.
No, so I want some level of logistics, right? So there's some stuff that doesn't run out, like your energy weapons, they're fine as long as your power plant's working and overheating. And then there'll be some stuff that is sort of in the more consumable bracket. So like on the weapon, on the ammo side, it would be things that would like say fire physical bullets, like the the mass driver cannon that we have like on the front of the 325 P, I believe. And obviously the physical bullet ones have a limited inventory of ammo, and then there'll be things like fuel, which is another consumable. But there's reasons to like have both of them, right? So like bullets may be better at penetrating shields than energy weapons are. So it may be a way to like get some damage in where you wouldn't necessarily have a chance to. So I kind of want people to sort of like balance these things, and maybe there's whole strategies that come. Okay, I hit him with laser weapons until it gets to this point, and then I do a salvo for my mass driver, and so that's kind of like the concept behind it.
Okay, so with the Idris Corvette, is it going to be possible for like a smaller ship, like say a Hornet, to fly really fast and close, dodge all the turrets, and manage to somehow take down the Corvette, or is that going to be somewhere you're going to need a bomber with some sort of torpedoes to be able to take them down?
Well, you certainly will be able to do a lot of fighting and dogfighting. I'm not sure that if you have a light fighter, you'll be able to blow up the Corvette. You'd probably be able to do some damage, like destroy some of the anti-spacecraft guns and stuff like that. But in terms of actual proper blowing it up, I think that would probably be more reserved to the heavier duty ships, like a Gladiator or a Retaliator, that have some ship-to-ship missiles and stuff.
Okay. And then, of course, another Idris Corvette is probably going to have the firepower to kill an Idris Corvette, I would guess.
Have firepower to kill who? Another Corvette or any other?
A Corvette to kill a Corvette.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, you have ship-to-ship weapons and anti-ship missiles. You definitely do. All those pack a big enough punch in a set so they can go through big capital ship shields and hulls.
So since you're planning to do such a limited number of the carriers, the Bengals, what are you going to do if a player finds one, takes it over, and then it gets destroyed rather than captured?
Well, I mean, I think the way we look at the Bengals or any of the big ships is they sort of have their own timeline, and they get, it's like, you don't build a U.S. aircraft carrier in like a month or even a year. So there would be some Bengals under construction, and basically the ones that would come back into our universe would be essentially based, ones that have been like in the shipyards of MacArthur for the last year or so, and now they're finally ready to christen another Bengal carrier kind of thing. So that's kind of the focus. We're going to have some more ships between the Corvette and the Bengal. I think we said that the destroyer is it will be the next largest playable ship.
And then a frigate above that.
Yeah, and then a frigate. I think we got destroyer, frigate, cruiser, whatever. So we'll have all those models because we sort of need them for the Squadron 42 campaign anyway.
Yeah. So the Bengal is a UEE ship. So if you've got a bunch of players that are UEE friendly citizens, whatever, are there going to be other carriers for them to capture and kind of live in, so to speak, like say for a big guild? Or are they going to have to steal one from UEE that they're friendly with?
Well, I was trying to think. Well, it sort of depends. I haven't really decided, like, also on the carrier itself, who's it controlled by? Is it a UEE military frontline ship, or is it a ship that was stolen by someone else, or is a ship becoming decommissioned that you get to buy on the cheap? We haven't fully decided on any one of those three options yet.
Okay, so it's still being worked on then.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is a question that may have been asked before, but what about third-person view while flying a ship? How is that going to work or not work, as the case may be?
Well, I'm going to let you have like a chase view because we've always done that in Wing Commanders. The difference is when you go out to the third-person view, you lose all of the things that you have in first-person, like the HUD wrapped around in the cockpit, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Are you going to be able to like freely rotate the camera so you can view your ship and all of its pretty beautifulness?
Yeah. That's the only reason to have the chase camera is to show off like how cool it is with all the cool animations.
Are you doing anything to help make that chase camera fit in from like a role-playing type perspective, like
what we've been thinking about is like a little droid you can deploy that's sort of like a chase droid.
And how is this little droid supposed to keep up with your ship? Because it's a tiny little droid and you have got really big engines.
Yeah, but it also doesn't weigh very much.
I guess that's true.
So I mean, it's all to do with your mass, really. So I think on the droid side, the concept is it's kind of like the sort of same speed that your ship would be at.
Okay. So for many of the ships, you've said that there's like a maximum crew size. For instance, the Corvette has a max crew size of 10. The Cutlass, I believe, is 2, something like that. Is it possible to fit more people in the ship than that? Like, say, if you just want to...
Well, potentially. I mean, we've been sort of discussing the situation of passengers. So really, when we talk crew, it's more about the people needed to make the ship function.
Okay. So, like, if you wanted to be a passenger ship with your Corvette and just ferry people around, you could, fit more than 10 people on it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many more, but, like, for instance, we're designing the Retaliator right now. And on the Retaliator... we've essentially, we're going to have some berths for people that are passengers, not just operating the ship.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Are you planning to do more variations for more of the ships besides just the 300i and the Aurora between now and release? Where you're going to do sales and specials, or is it more just going to be...
No, we'll definitely... I mean, what the plan is as we finish the game models of the ships, we're going to put together a brochure and a commercial. The commercial, maybe not always the time because that takes quite a lot of effort, but we use the commercial to sort of also really, like the ship, push it, basically get its sea legs in the engine, right? So make all the animations work and all our rest of the stuff. So there's a lot of, it's actually kind of a good exercise to get do the commercials because we essentially do all that in engine. Obviously we specify where the camera is going to go and everything, but it's all rendered in real time. So we sort of, our workflow is as we do these ships, we're going to roll them out and essentially do a commercial and a brochure along the lines that we've done for the 300i, which I think is probably the one that's the most complete.
So since you're planning to have all of the 5 basic ships in the hangar when that's released at the end of August or whenever, are you going to have all of those commercials done for those ships before the hangar, or?
Not before the hangar. So it sort of depends. I mean, it's going to be too tight to do it all before the hangar because obviously we have one commercial now and we've got another 4 ships to go. So I think we'll have commercials of at least 1 or 2 other ones by the time that happens, though.
Okay. And is that still on schedule for the end of August, or do you think it's going to be pushed back, or?
Currently, it's still the end of August. I mean, that's what we're tracking to. That's what we've got going. That's what we're shooting for.
So while you've got people working on the hangar, do you also have people still working on all the Squadron 42 stuff and the dogfight?
Yeah, no, we got a whole bunch. So basically, we're working on a lot of things in parallel. So we've got the hangar, we've got the dogfighting that's going on. We've got people working on the planet side stuff. We've actually got multiple groups working on that, kind of figuring out what the flow is. How we're going to sort of procedurally do some background elements of the city. We've got people working in parallel on the back end MMO stuff. So it's a quite distributed setup, and a lot of things are happening in parallel. You're just seeing mostly the hangar stuff because that's sort of the more front-facing stuff.
Okay. So do you do a lot of programming yourself, or do you pretty much just do the design work, or what do you do?
Well, I do a lot of everything. I mean, so on this, definitely a lot of the programming. I was the only programmer on the prototype that we did for a year, so that was all kind of me. But right now, as the team gets bigger, I end up being sort of sucked into doing more general direction stuff. But I'm still hoping to free up some time for me to do some programming on some certain effects that I've got in my mind for flying around the spaceship, which I think could be pretty cool.
Yeah. So do you really enjoy programming then a lot? Is that just like something you're passionate about, or is it more like you like games and you just have to muddle through the programming to get the game you want?
Well, I would say if you take the muddling out, that's probably accurate. So I don't actually. I'm a good programmer, but I'm not someone that actually loves it as a process. I only do it because I have an end result. So if an artist gives me like a ship with all the animations, I will go and program the code needed to support all that right away, because then I can see it and play it and touch it and feel it. Which is, it's kind of like sort of what my style of how I would do stuff. Some other people like to, approach it a completely different way, but I think it's important for me to have people that really like the genre.
Yeah. So some of your programmers just like the program, and some of them do it like you, where they want to see the finished project, and the program
well,
is a means to an end.
I kind of think that on my side that I'm probably a pretty decent programmer because I'm very focused on the end result. So essentially, what I try to be as efficient as possible to achieve it. I don't like some I know programmers that love just to write systems. They can write systems forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, and that's fine with them. And it's more about it's less about the end result and more about the process for those people. For me, it's like I only really like to program when it's got it's going to deliver me something that I can be using in the game.
Okay. So for some of your older projects like Wing Commander, how much did you do with those projects?
Well, the very first Wing Commander I did a lot. So basically, Wing Commander, I was the main programmer on Wing Commander, and I had a few other people that came on later on that helped get it out the door. But basically, a huge amount of the code in Wing Commander was me. I wrote all the engine and everything else, and then Strike Commander was a really big undertaking, and I that was me and another engineer called Jason Tubman, and basically built the 3D engine and a lot of the systems for the game. And then that engine, the Strike Commander engine, was the engine that drove Wing 3 and Wing 4, and then a bunch of some other games that we had in Origin, like Pacific Strike or Wings of Glory and stuff like that. And that was kind of the Strike Commander days were the last hardcore programming I did until I started on Star Citizen. And then, because the first year, I was completely under the radar, and I was working on learning the various engines. I eventually made the choice on CryEngine and sort of prototyping stuff together. That I would say was sort of as much programming I've done since I was doing Strike Commander, and I actually was really having fun because the machines are so more powerful now. You can do so much more stuff that it's really it's much cooler than it was in the old days. Let me put it that way.
How long did it take you to get used to the newer technologies versus those older technologies, though?
Not that much. I mean, everyone still programs primarily in C++. And then if you wanted, there's even things like C#, which is kind of like C++. So it was more, the thing that took the longest time was basically learning the ins and outs of the engine. Like whenever I work with something, I like to understand how everything works so I can sort of use it to its fullest.
Yeah.
So that just took a long time with CryEngine, because CryEngine is really powerful, but it's also it's pretty complicated. It's not for instance, it's not nearly as easy to use as Unity.
Yeah. So do you ever do any art yourself, or do you always just say, I have an idea for a ship and let someone else do it, or how do you handle some of that stuff?
Oh, I haven't done art for a long time. I mean, my old games, the very early ones I used to make, I did the art, I did the programming, I did the sound, I did it all. No, I haven't been doing art myself for quite a while. I mean, I do some technical art stuff, which is like taking one of the ships, say in 3ds Max, which is the prime program we work in, and then rigging it up and organizing the pieces and parts so it works best for our vehicle system. But that's not really art. It's sort of like, it's basically being a technical artist.
It's doing the programming to make art work.
Good, yes, yeah. A good way to describe it.
So when you're coming up with a ship, like say the 300i, when you go to the concept artist, do you tell him, hey, I want a ship that looks like this, or do you just say, hey, I need a ship, give me one? Or how exactly does that initial part work?
It depends on what it is. I mean, generally what it is we have a spec for the ship, and we give it to one of our concept artists. Round Church is a good example, who's a really sort of great conceptual designer, one of the top ones in Hollywood, who's worked on all the big stuff. And we basically say, here's the specs of the ship, and kind of think, whatever, like Retaliator, think, B-29 in space or something like that.
Yeah.
And then he goes off, and then he comes back with some rough blockouts, and then we're like, yeah, that looks good, or change this. And then we sort of iterate through that, and then he starts to hit a groove and starts to add detail in, and basically we just go back and forth. And so a lot, like, I don't know if you're a subscriber, but if you're a subscriber, there's been a fair number of making of stuff, and kind of the inset chat that you would see between, say, me and Ryan Church is pretty much how it goes. He sort of delivers a round of revisions, and then we're like, yeah, that looks great, or, oh, you know what, like, let's make this area a little smaller, or maybe make that gun a bit bigger, or whatever it will be.
Yeah, I am a subscriber, and I've seen those. I was just more wondering about, like, before you get to the very first concept, how that whether that was you or that was the concept artist who comes up with that very, very first concept on a given ship.
Well, no, it's definitely a concept artist. I mean, so you basically give someone a sort of either a written or a verbal description of what you want, but then the concept artist runs with it. So.
Okay. Okay, that's interesting. So, that is honestly all the questions I can think of.
Well, that's kind of a big amount. We did all right. We got like 53 minutes in, so there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, well, no, that's cool. I mean, I think there's some pretty good questions there. I mean, hopefully did I answer all the ones for your satisfaction?
Yes, you did. All the questions I had and all the questions my guild members asked. I think
Good.
so.
Is your guild spread all around the place?
Pretty much. I found out about my guild's Eternal Vigilance is the name through the RSI website, and I've joined them and started hanging out with them. They do a couple other games as well, so it's been really cool so far to be a part of it.
And what's their sort of specialty as a guild?
Our goal as a guild so far is to kind of be anti-pirate people. Not necessarily UEE, but anti-pirate. Kind of like what I was saying earlier, where I want to be a person who pretends to be a pirate for the sake of killing pirates.
Oh, right. So basically pirate hunters that are masquerading as pirates.
Pretty much. I mean, we'll probably try to have a more civilized front where everybody thinks we're nice, great people, and then we'll really be killing pirates in our free time. So we can be sneaky about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually kind of. I mean, it's going to be a little ways before the persistent universe, but I'm actually kind of looking forward to that part of it where I just want to see, because I'm just so curious to see like how all the different groups, go about their business, who's fighting who's undermining who, all that stuff. I think it's just like really cool.
Have you read the guild recruitment forums on your website? Because there's already some of that stuff forming, and we're not even in the game yet.
No, I know. So I was shocked. I mean, I'm amazed. I mean, we have so many dedicated like fan sites to a game that isn't even out yet. And I could, even in the early days, you could see people just gathering up, like, hey, I'm forming a pirates guild, and then another one be, hey, I'm forming a bounty hunters guild to go after the pirates, and it was just kind of cool. I mean,
we've already got associations of pirate guilds banding together, and associations of
the League of Pirates.
Anti-pirates. So it's very interesting. It's pretty exciting.
So we're definitely really thinking about ways to really sort of play into that and encourage that. So there's different play dynamics depending on how many people there are. So yeah, I'm really curious to see how it all works out, because it should be pretty cool. I mean, Star Citizen's a little different than a traditional MMORPG.
Yeah.
But I think it should be pretty cool. There should be some cool battles.
So speaking of the big groups, I just thought of a new question. Is there going to be a function within the game for, like, say, alliances of guilds or corporations or whatever they're going to be called, or is it going to be more like it is on the forums right now, where it's kind of an unofficial, informal kind of thing?
I think I don't. It sort of depends. I mean, maybe we'd let a guild set its hostility to other user-created groups, which is basically what a guild is.
Yeah.
There's still be custom stuff just for guilds, and you'll be able to buy some custom real estate for guilds.
Okay.
That you wouldn't be able to do as a single player, for instance.
Yeah. So another question I thought of within a guild or a corporation, whatever you want to call it, are there going to be specific mechanics for, say, squadrons within that? Like, say you put together a bunch of players to be a fleet, is there going to be mechanics in the game to allow you to break that fleet into squadrons?
We're definitely setting up gameplay that supports single players, small groups of players, and much bigger groups of players. That will all have gameplay that's specific to those sort of social constructs. And then I think we announced in stretch goal, maybe we already hit it. I can't remember. I mean, it's been pretty crazy the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But we have a whole sort of command, sort of CNC kind of like command. Information combat, or I can't remember. It's center that you would have like on your bigger ships, and that's where you would actually be able to sort of task, say, groups of fighters that have taken off the deck of your carrier or off your corvette even, and communicate with them and sort of control them in a slightly different kind of game mode, but basically Some people can be flying the fighters. Some people can be flying the big ships. Some people are just manning the guns. Some people can be telling what the other, coordinating the fighters and telling what targets to go after. I think it'll all be pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. It's pretty exciting. So, yeah. Yeah. That's pretty exciting. I cannot wait. I really, really cannot. I have been... I literally check your website every day for new news. So.
No, that's awesome. Well, I'm glad you. I mean, like I said, we couldn't be making the game without your support and the support of a whole bunch of, great, generous people just like you, and we're having a lot of fun building it. So I'm actually can't wait to get into the proper persistent universe with everyone out there and just sort of see what happens. So it's going to be kind of cool. It's like one of the most fun I've had designing a game for a long time. So
when you're playing the game, are you going to use your real name or are you going to use a fake name so that you can see it without everybody knowing it's you and trying to kill you or friend you?
I don't know. I probably will have multiple characters. One which would be more of a public character, and one which is more like sort of a stealth character. But we'll have to see.
That sounds cool.
Yeah.
Sounds cool. It's exciting that you're excited about your own game as well, because games nowadays don't often get made that way, it seems.
No. I mean, the whole point of doing this in the first place was this was a game I wanted to play, and it wasn't really out there. So I'm like, all right, I guess I'm gonna have to go and build it. I've been wanting this kind of game for a while. So that's the priority. I mean, that's the there's definitely it's a lot of work. So there's going to be some bumps along the way, I know, but. The biggest thing that I think anyone should take confidence is that I'm basically building the game that I want to play, and I'm a pretty, I'm tougher on myself than anyone else would be. Yeah. So I'm not happy with anything that's like second rate. So it's going to be good. So, or at least I hope it's going to be good. I mean, for me, it's I'm not going to be sitting around going, yeah, that's good enough, right? Push it out the door. It may take a bit of time to get everything zeroed in and honed in, but I think it's going to be a pretty cool game. I mean, I can see it in my mind, so I can see it in my mind. Usually when I can visualize it, that's kind of where I know it's going to work or not work.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what happens.
That's really exciting. It really is. I am super excited.
Awesome.
Super excited.
All right. Well, I think I actually got to run now because it's about 6. So
I was gonna say it's probably time to end this, but
no, because my nanny is leaving right now, so I'm on my little 18-month-old daughter duty.
Oh wow.
Yeah. No, have a great. I guess it's morning for you, so have a great July the 4th.
I will.
I guess. Yeah, honey. All right, I'm just on a call. I'll be off in a second.
I've just gotta, upload this nice hour-long video to YouTube so that my guildmates can see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. But yeah, have a great July 4th. I don't know if you guys are doing barbecue over there or anything, but have a good Independence Day.
I will, and I hope you have a good one as well tomorrow for you.
I think tomorrow, take it easy. Maybe have barbecue. So that's all good.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, you're welcome, Josh. Nice talking to you.
Yep. Bye.
Yeah.